is one of the partners in that process, so.
Okay.
I think
Well,
if it's got momentum, I don't see why not, continue with it.
Right.
If there's, they've got.
I mean, if there's a
people-
grant schedule that we can
Yeah.
apply for, and if that puts it off till fall or something,
I think it'd be a neat project to do with Lowell Arts,
Okay.
if Laureen's interested in doing
Right.
something like that.
Wasn't that you were talking to her?
Yes.
We were, but we didn't talk about it from a grant standpoint. She was just
Oh,
talking to
okay.
us about what the cost would be.
Right, okay.
Right.
To do it, and the couple of ways we could do it. We could either just hire the artists straight away and let them do it, or get students involved.
I mean,
think
if-
it's important to get the students involved and have a
And the
Have
only time
community
the
activity
students
and-
could actually do it would be toward the end of the school year, because they work for 3 weeks, 10 hours a week while they're going to school. And then once they're out of school, they work 20 hours a week on it for
And-
3 weeks. And right now, Lorraine said she does not have the facilities,
Capacity, yeah.
the capacity in there, because she already has her summer programs going.
But we can
But we
facilitate
could
that.
facilitate it in
Either
the
downstairs
engine
back
room
here,
or-
or in the engine room, or over in the line shack itself. But
Since we have talked so often about PR and how to, use Facebook and social media and raise our presence in the community from that regard, maybe we should consider, because I agree with Perry, I think now that the building looks a little nicer, it's not such a huge, we gotta get it done now kind of a thing. Maybe we could look at how do we use this type of a project to also connect with the community and raise our, maybe we do some sort of a contest, and then people have to go to our Facebook page to vote on their favorite or whatever. And so, there's a million ways to do it, to think about what goes on there, and you could create a theme and say, okay, submit your ideas based on this theme, and, that might be a fun way to engage the community. And it may take a little bit more time.
Sure.
But I think it might be a nice way for us, because we've talked about that so much, like how do we do that with
Right.
the community, and how do we focus on the PR, and, so
I agree.
might be an option.
Yeah.
I guess the other is just how much of the job kind of belongs to the artist though, too. I don't, for the other one, I don't know, how much do they want to be told what to do versus how much do they want to kind
Well,
of,
They want
They
to
The
did-
reason
figure out
why
the
it's
theme
more
and
money
figure
is
out their-
because the artist acts as the educator
The mentor.
right, okay,
Yeah.
to the students.
okay.
So he's pretty
You know,
hands-on,
things.
but the students are actually submitting the ideas and.
Okay. And I just know that the mural we did on the Trail building, I thought it turned out perfect, so if we just follow that same process, I think it would work pretty well. But yeah,
Okay.
any other ideas? I guess I'm just like, like you said, if we've got some momentum, just keep going, but recognizing that there's other things going on, so.
Okay. Well, we'll just keep pursuing it,
Yep.
and in the meantime, you guys can be thinking about a theme, and we can talk more about because that is what the next step would be, is to kind of pick a general topic. Do we want logs and beavers, or do we want trees, or do we want,
I just want to tell them, say, light,
Squirrels,
make
that
the
could be
theme
our new
light and see what they
mascot.
come up with,
Yeah.
Because,
or light and power?
Kill them all.
yeah, but then you're going to get that little superhero, right?
Exactly. Okay. That's it on the mural. Lowell School Solar Project, again, I haven't heard back from the person that was promoting that as the developer, so that's on hold for now. Lowell Expo, we are participating again this year with a booth and bucket rides, and again, we'll be focused on some energy efficiency things, promoting residential efficiency and the programs we offer.
Remind me of the date, is that the 19th?
No, it's
No,
26th,
26th.
the day after he retires. So that's why I want to see if it's,
Day after Good
Easter
If he's-
weekend.
Oh, that's right,
Easter
that's
weekend.
Easter weekend.
It's a holiday
That's
for us, that
crazy.
Friday.
It
Friday.
is.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
That's what it is.
Easter's so early this year.
All right, 2016, 2017, item G, budgeting and long-range planning model.
Steve's
Most of
favorite
you
time
know
of the
that
year.
we do a long-range planning model, and that's the basis that we use to start our budgeting process. So we have an
I just
updated
worried the
long-range
font
planning
is so
model.
tiny, I need magnifying
And
glass.
Steve will pass that around.
I want the copy with all the little notes
It
on
looks
it.
like he's
Is there things I'm gonna say that you
trying
can?
to, trying to save paper there and put it on 8.5 by 14
I'm gonna
instead
sit here and eat
of
them all.
11 by 17, but that's okay.
I can see it. I just
Can you?
Okay.
Hold her out, Sharon, thank you.
Well,
That is some small print.
first of all, I just wanted to, we usually have 11 by 17. We changed to 8.5 by 14 because we got a new copier, scanner fax.
Works fine for me.
Works? Good.
Take my glasses off and I'm good.
And the font gets smaller as we go down the page. What's up with that? Okay.
Further out into the future, so.
That's just more stuff he doesn't want you to know.
That's what happens if you say, print the page.
So
Flip the page, yeah.
That's what happens when I get old.
historically, in February, we have this financial projection that goes out roughly a decade into the future, which this one does. And then in March, we have a draft budget. And in May, we have a final budget. So this is meant to give the board just an overview of where we're heading and how things look. And I am tweaking my budgeting process. In the past, the budget that I would present next month, which looks like the income statement we see every month, very closely resembles this. We do have some change in personnel coming up, and I am going through a new process of looking at departments closer. And I'm going to be getting with the distribution department and generation department. So next month, when I come back with our first draft, or with our budget, it's still to be determined how closely it will match the projection of 2017. Just wanted to give that disclosure. But a few notes that I wanted to point out. The top has the assumptions, and there's a rate adjustment and growth in requirements and a growth in revenue. As you can see, if we meet our target growth in requirements and growth in revenue, we will not, as I project, need a significant rate increase. We can talk more about that. If we don't meet our requirements or growth in revenue, then there's the potential for a larger rate increase. And those three things end up ultimately driving cash on hand. And next month, I anticipate going into detail of looking at how much cash we should have on hand, whether it's restricted or non-restricted. With MPPA's new program, they're going to be going through different key metrics that bond rating companies do look at in terms of giving people ratings. And bond rating companies look at unrestricted cash and how that compares to how many months of operations and maintenance expenses you can cover. The charter just looks at total cash. How much cash do we have compared to our, 10% of our plan? So I'd like the board's input in the future months of, okay, yeah, we're meeting charter requirements, but MPPA is putting together this program. Their program might say, okay, we need this much unrestricted cash. How does this projection fare compared to how much MPPA thinks we should have, and will that affect future rate adjustments? So just because I have 1.5% plugged in for the next number of years, that doesn't mean what it's going to be. This is just what we have, but more information about that will come out in the future.
I think our disclaimer on this every year is that one thing we can guarantee you is that this is not how it will happen.
Yeah.
This is just our best
That's why it's
estimate.
called a projection.
It's our best estimate as of today.
I mean, if power cost, who knows what will happen with EPA and power costs, and so there's so much unknown, but as placeholders, this shows that we should have a solid financial picture with the assumptions I'm making. But there was a few questions, or?
Yeah, what's that growth and requirement?
Growth, an actual just kilowatt hours used.
Our requirement is what's called our kilowatt hours. Those are what we receive through the distribution system that brings us electricity via MPPA and what other facilities that we buy. Those are our requirements.
Okay.
From that, we have losses, line losses, whatever. and the difference between those two ends up being our sales. So the requirement
Okay.
is the total electricity we have to bring in order to sell the number of kilowatt hours that we sell.
Okay.
And just because your requirements go up doesn't mean your revenue's always gonna go up. You know, you could have greater losses, so you can do things to combat losses, hopefully an AMI system. So that's why the two lines are separated.
Okay.
The next item I wanted to go down to was about 2/3 down the page. It shows operating income, target operating income, including pilot. Mark Beauchamp, who developed this model, has a formula for how much target operating income we should have. And they say that you should have some sort of rate of return to be able to fund future capital projects. You need to start building cash for the future, and you want to pay for your capital projects through cash, and you need to cover your debt service. So this projection, I just wanted to point out, shows that we are projected to have sufficient operating income compared to what our target should be. And it is good, in my opinion, that it's actually a little higher, because as you can see in 2021, which is one of my next points, fourth or fifth line from the bottom, you'll show a capital expense of 3.65 million. That would be when we purchased the biodigester. So we do need to build cash if we do not want to bond for that.
Which we don't want to do.
Right.
Also, a few other just points that I'm excited about. This does go out to 2026, but by that time, our bond will be very close to being paid off. I think we'll have like another year and a half. And at this time, Campbell and Bell River should both be paid off. So it's hard to factor that if you want to bank on something like that happening, and then your projections look rosy, and then all of a sudden something happens with the law and flips the other way. But I just wanted to point out that there is the possibility of those things happening. And if we weren't to issue more debt, rates could decrease potentially significantly, because a large portion of our power bills is debt service.
And that's, as you may remember, again, we've had this discussion, but we were supposed to be terminating the debt
Right.
on Bell River and Campbell in 15 and 16. And because we had to go out and through MPPA, raise money to put in all the requirements for meeting the EPA standards, we had to extend those to 2018 and 2021. So it does happen, is all I'm saying.
I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but
Hopefully.
what percentage of the city budget does our pilot provide?
I actually don't know that.
Okay.
It's somewhere in the,
City budget, again, a couple of years ago, was 2.5.
Yeah, it's like around 2.5 million, I
Million.
think.
I think I want to say a little over 10%, maybe?
yeah, and I thought we're in the 8 to 12% range of
Okay.
how much.
I can look that up.
I just was, I mean, that's fine, the ballpark figure is fine.
Right.
I just was curious, because, you look at, as we continue to be healthy as a utility, that benefits our community in so many other
Absolutely.
ways,
Absolutely.
And I think-
contribution to the city.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's important for people to understand,
Right, 4.5% of our total
Yeah.
revenue goes to the city.
that as we
So-
continue to grow and be healthy
I mean,
as a utility.
It's actually net revenue, I just want to
Right,
make
I'm
sure.
sorry.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
One little word.
Yeah, because I'm looking at this,
Get your
well, I mean, I'm just looking at those numbers and those projections and thinking, it's a significant part of the city budget, and I
Oh, yeah.
think that, I'm not sure how many residents in our community really get that connection between our health and the health of the city overall. So I think that's important for people to understand that.
And another
I believe
huge
that
point
all
is
goes
that
to the
our
general fund.
improvements at the generation and all this stuff, we're funding with our cash flow. We're not borrowing
Right.
this money.
Right.
We're healthy and we're doing that out of our
Right.
cash flow, which
Right.
is important.
Yeah.
Right,
The bonding that we're paying for was bonding that was done back in 2003.
right. Okay, yeah. So, that's good.
Yeah, and that was the last point. We are planning to fund capital projects through cash. So this is just a high level of what you can expect for a draft budget and final budget in the coming months, but with the tweaking of the budgeting process and change in personnel and when we'll be hiring people, or if we won't be, that will affect this. So just wanted to let you guys know it will not match as closely as it did in prior years. So.
One other thing, Steve, we were going to
Few
mention, I think,
unknowns.
was.
Oh, yeah.
You can see in 2017 projected, we are showing that we are going to try and level out the PCA. All right, it has started to taper off now, and assuming that it stays that way and we can kind of plan on that, then we want to build that power cost back into our base rate. And so you can see on that line that says base rate, we're projecting that will change from 4.3 cents in the base rate to 6.3 cents. It'll go up that 2 cents, and our PCA will then drop back to zero again. And then we can, again, that'll either go up or down based on what happens to future power cost. So we are planning through our rate structure this year to get that back in the base rate.
Yes, thanks.
Okay?
Entertain any questions or comments or?
Well, and we talked about before the meeting, I guess I would just like a clarification from the city, the mayor, the acting city manager, because I want to make sure that we're not in any violation, because again, as the charter states that the budget must be submitted at the second Monday in March. And it doesn't say whether it's a draft budget, it just says budget. So in the past history, we've submitted a draft budget and then a final budget in approximately May.
Right.
So I would just like a it's something that the city needs, I mean, you need to contact, and because, you know, with the climate of what's going on in the city, I want to make sure that Lowell Light and Power is not violating
Right.
anything that the
Perceived.
charters
We
are
just
perceived.
don't want there to be any
Perceived to be
questions. We
So
don't want
if
any
they,
questions.
if the mayor and the city manager says a draft budget is fine for that, if they
Might be
say
good to get
no,
it in
then I
writing.
think we need to be prepared at our March meeting, which is
The 10th.
the 10th, and the second Monday is the 14th, that
Yep.
we, if we need to, that we approve a budget to send on to them. So I'm just saying, for me, I need a clarification what they're expecting from us.
Okay,
Okay.
easily done. Anything else on budgeting?
Not for me.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Having fun yet?
Always.
All right, the next item on the agenda is our strategic planning. And as we mentioned last month, I gave you an updated dashboard, so to speak, of little projects that we had, and those that were initially completed, those that are still on there. We've added some things. And so I asked you to at least look at those from a perspective of where you might want to place priority, and maybe set some timeframes if that's appropriate at this time. Again, this is a working document, it changes, it moves with whatever happens within our utility itself in terms of what are important at the time, what become critical, so to speak. So I don't know if you took a look at those or not, but if you have some input, we'll take care of that now, and I'll try and get you an updated version for next month that has some maybe priorities and some dates on it. I know that Tina did hers because she asked me for a copy today.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
So I
I'll
had-
take input.
I guess one comment I had on the responsibility column
Mm-hmm.
was maybe instead of just listing all the people involved, maybe put a lead plus the people that will support that person.
Okay,
Sort of, just so that if there's, kind of make one person the point person.
okay.
So especially when there's some that I can see like they have, like this sustainability grants, it kind of says,
Mark,
you know,
Right.
Greg Sharon and, Mark Howe,
Right.
but it's kind of like, well, who's really running that?
Okay.
Just that kind of a thing.
Yep, nope, that,
It's really good.
Plus, it's a good opportunity then, because to give some of the staff sort of like kind of put them at the point of some things
right.
with
Give them ownership.
you or the new manager sort of as their support versus,
Right, okay, so I'll do that, I'll either color code it, or the first one in the list will be the lead, or
Yep.
We always
Okay.
make 2 columns too.
we can make.
Just one heading and we can do it.
Okay, we can do that. In terms of prioritizing or timeframes, we've talked about the mural. So maybe we could just put sometime in 2016 as a target?
I guess I honestly feel like that could even be bumped out to 2017 if necessary.
Okay,
I mean, I think there are some really great ideas, and I would love to see that community partnership, but I don't know that it's a priority.
right,
Based on some of the conversations that we've had over the last several months, when you think about facility use plan, looking at like the energy site development in the LLP offices, I mean, we've had different conversations about how that
Right.
works with having staff in 2 different locations. Do we want to take a more serious look at that and really come up with some strategies and plans? And then also see how that would fit financially with the fact that in 5 years, we need to make sure we have capital
Right.
for the purchase of the biodigester.
Right.
So to me, that seems like we should at least be a little more serious about figuring that out.
okay,
So that we can make some decisions about whether or not to move forward on that and what the
Absolutely.
feasibility is with all of that.
okay.
So,
Let's,
in my
That's
opinion,
where
I
I kind
think.
of, I was just going to add that I kind of thought that the first maybe bullet would just be the facility use plan.
Right,
Okay,
right. Yeah, the plan overall for all of those different things,
Mhm.
but then, to
Right.
maybe put a little bit more priority
Okay.
on understanding what is the impact of having the staff in 2 different places, and both financially, from a working standpoint, communication, all of those questions fall into that,
okay. Well,
so.
let's, from that conversation then, I think I would change that from a B to an A.
Mhm.
And at least have the Energy Center and office as As. And then maybe move the line check to more of a B
Yeah.
within that process.
Right, because I know,
think
in
it's
the conversations we've had before, the thought about, the mural is one thing to make it look a little nicer.
Right.
But the utilization of the building is a second question, and I know we've talked about, for the city to sort of have an idea of, because they've talked about developing this west side, and that's why
Right.
we've kind of held on to it.
Yes.
And now with the city sort of in transition, I guess is a good word for it, I don't feel like we can address that issue really well until the city kind of figures out what they're
Right,
doing.
right.
So-
Harry, from a Parks and Rec standpoint, has there been any more discussion about development of the west side, or?
There really hasn't.
Okay.
I mean, per se, there's.
Do we
been
know the route of
references.
the trail yet? Is the trail going to come down Riverside?
No, the recommendation. The recommendation from Laura, which I sit on as the city representative, one of the city representatives, is basically going, down G Drive down to Sibley, coming down Sibley, going across at the traffic light, going down to Bose, and then you're talking about the connector from the rails to trails.
Right.
That's the predominant
Latest?
latest and greatest, but at Monday, or at Tuesday's council meeting, we'll be bringing it up.
Okay.
I mean, and I don't want to, currently throwing anybody under the bus right at the moment, but since Jim Hall's passing, we have not had any representation from the city council at any of our meetings since September.
Okay.
And we had a meeting last night, and the representative that was supposed to be there, and I understand his employment is from in the evenings, but again, as Tamla said, we're in a transition phase, so we really don't have a great feel of what the city's thinking, because we haven't been able, we've encouraged the city, the new members to attend our meetings and everything, and we haven't had anyone attend from the city council.
When we last discussed it, I mean, we made provisions from an easement standpoint to have it come down the pipeline that we have from Lighthouse and across the back of our property and out onto Smith Street or whatever, and so that's not the,
That probably is not the direction
Okay.
currently right now,
Okay.
is trying to utilize as much existing trail. There's that connector that went off G Drive that connected to Sibley.
right?
That's been done. So there's two different projects that we talked about last night. The Rails to Trails, which is to connect where it's at Foreman and over to the Upper Bridge area, Montcalm, and how we connect that, because that is the only cut break in that trail system that goes all the way from Saginaw, Ionia, or Owasso, excuse me, Owasso to Ionia to Saranac to Lowell, and then from Lowell all the way up to Elma. So the states were really encouraged because we're the little break in that, and they want to see that happen. The others we've talked about is LARA, Lowell Area Recreation Authority, is to add on to our trails from the corner of G and Alden Nash, to bring that down to the new township park that's going in behind Walgreens. And I know the township is in the process of going out and raising funds to develop phase one of their park. Along with that is to have a trail that connects to that, which that trail would be in the city. And again,
Right.
there's some frustration because we're not getting the participation from the current city council to even explore the idea
How best to do that.
how best to do that. So that's where we're at right now
Okay.
with the whole trail thing.
So the prospect of that coming over something and down Riverside where that would be on the trail is probably not.
We looked, it went out, Williams and Works did a study.
Right.
We paid for that study to look at how do we connect that? And there was 5 or 6 different routes, and some of them, there was a walking bridge to take us across the flat. There's a proposed bridge to take us across the flat south of Main Street. So there's a lot of different things, but what we found, which was the most, the easiest, the most cost-effective was a trail that would actually kind of go down, get across to Bowes Road, go through the
Under Hudson, you mean?
well, to go under Hudson, the bridge for a crossing, then go up, and a bridge to go across the flat, then go to the north upper bridge, and then either put a walking bridge underneath that, and bicycles would be able to use the top. And it's still in the process,
Right.
but that
Was the most cost-effective
is the
route.
most cost-effective, and without having to go and get a bunch of easements, and that was
Right.
what this group has come up with, and I know that they've met with the DNR and the MDOT, Michigan Department of Transportation, because again, looking to grants to be able to do that whole process. So
Okay.
what we did talk about one time is going down where along the railroad tracks, the school property and everything. That's not one of the recommendations at this time.
Okay, good. Well, that gives us an idea of what, because that was an additional benefit to have something developed here.
Right.
That the trail riders would be
Right.
going by, so to speak, so. All right.
And but if you look at the whole thing, so this is what we have to get the grants and everything, that's the route that we go. But there's going to be people such as myself and everybody else that goes, okay, I'm not riding way out to Ziegler's to go across Hudson. They're gonna very easily figure out, okay, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna ride down Main Street, go across Main Street, right up Riverside Drive and down to Foreman. So, I mean,
Yeah,
they'll find it'll still be a area that will have
traffic.
strong traffic.
Okay, all right, good.
So then, in terms of like the combustion turbine upgrade, and electric meter installation, those additional pieces underneath, with the AMI stuff that's going on, I mean, what's feasible? What's a logical date to look at some of those things?
Well, for the meter
the-
installation, again, that's another one that we will move to A.
Right.
And I think the target is to have that installed by midsummer.
Yeah.
But then once it's installed, like what's reasonable to think, do we wait a year then for that time study and some of these other pieces or, okay.
Yeah.
We would
Okay.
They're gonna have to
at
collect
least-
data.
At least
Right,
for a
because
while
that's
to
what I
even
was,
implement
is
a
it a
rate.
year or 2
Yeah.
years worth of data that you need? So
Yes.
I think some of that can be filled in just
Yep.
based on what's logical
Yep.
for the timing of those things. And same thing with the combustion turbines, like, once we get this done, what's logical to look at to do the boiler inspection and all of those other things, you know?
Right.
Logically, what makes sense, so.
Yep.
And I think you probably have a better read on that than,
Okay,
I know
well, then
certainly
I'll-
that I
yeah,
would.
then I'll throw some dates
Yeah.
in those things and place, maybe rearrange some of the priorities based on what we think and
Right.
bring that back to you.
That's what I was gonna say, I think kind of the timeline is maybe something you being staff, put together based on kind of the priorities.
Okay,
That,
all right. That sounds good. We can do that.
kind of like knowing that AMI is happening now.
Right.
What does that do to
Right.
these other things or,
Right.
given
And also
that
knowing the staff
AMI is an A,
transition,
then-
you know, that may impact some of this,
Yep.
especially like when we think about, I mean, yes, we'd love to see more community collaboration. We've talked about education, but obviously there's been other priorities going on. And so
Right.
as we make that staff transition, that's a big question in some
Right.
of these things too.
And there might be, collaboration with the city might be best
If we wait a little while.
facilitated when the new city manager, not the interim, is there, so
Mhm.
that might help too. so.
That might be helpful.
One of the things that I wanted to mention, because it is on here, we've talked about remaining 12,470 distribution upgrade and that type of thing. And you may remember that last fall, we approved a system study by GRP, and we've now received the results of that system study, and I haven't sent it out to you. I have a copy here that I can send out to you. It's fairly lengthy. It's
Could
60-some
you
pages.
send us a summary?
I can send you the
Like an
executive summary.
executive summary,
I can do
maybe?
that. I can send you the executive summary. Basically, though, what it shows is, in our 1247 upgrade, the green part is done, and the red is what needs to be done yet. And so,
What's the blue?
for the camera. The blue are just the distribution lines.
Also the shaded red and green are what's
Right.
done and need
Yeah.
to be done. Okay.
Right, right. And so, this really addresses this plan, this is what we wanted it for, this 5-year study plan, addresses how to best implement the rest of it in this area and make our system more resilient and able to facilitate any other growth that happens other places in the system. So Again, I'll get you a copy of the executive summary, and that'll give us some working document to be able to put some timeframes into some of these other things with respect to finishing the upgrade of the 1247 system.
Right.
And we'll be looking at how best to do that and working with GRP. One of the things I'm just going to throw out tonight as food for thought, it's something that I've been thinking about for a while, and Steve brought it up this week on his own. So as we're going through this process of transitioning ourselves with Tom gone and additional responsibilities for Mark and the general manager and those types of things, one of the things that at least it appears to us might be to our advantage is as we look for someone to fill Tom's position, or maybe we decide that we're going to realign the responsibilities, because with Tom's knowledge, he took on a lot more than
Right.
most people would in that position, so maybe we kind of divide up responsibilities a little bit or something. But one of the things that I think it might be worth looking for is an in-house engineer. And we look at the amount that we pay GRP, they do a great job for us, but it adds up over the course of a year. And we could pay for a half or two-thirds of an engineer's salary with the money that we spend at GRP. And so if we are in this phase now where a lot of this work could be done in-house in terms of taking this model that we have and this plan, and obviously GRP would still be implementing data into the model for us and giving us updates on the model, but maybe the actual planning and design of how we want to move forward with some of this we could do in-house. So just food for thought, and we'll talk about it again next month, but maybe having someone that has engineering, electrical engineering background of some sort would be an advantage as we start that part of the search process. So. Anything else with respect to strategic planning? I haven't heard
So
a
with
word, Tina.
With that.
Do you have a voice, Tina?
With that
I'm giving her a hard time.
12470, is that a priority? Because I've noticed it's blank in here.
Yes, that's an A priority, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's a more long-range priority, though. It's not, the timeframe here would be, 2016 to 2022, something like that would be.
Okay.
So,
So,
since you brought it up and I don't see it in your report, are we going to get an update on Tom's position, or
No,
do we have any?
that's why it's not out here. No.
Do we have,
we
have any information to
Yes,
update?
we, on the whole process, we have had an interview with someone. I have a second interview with them tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. And I do have a document to hand out to you that is a update on the general manager position and what it might look like in terms of position description. Your special meeting that you had and went through what you would kind of like to do and how you'd like to move forward was just after the deadline for the February currents.
Oh, okay.
So we will get it in for the March currents.
Okay.
And if this is something that you feel covers the need, then we'll also get that into APPA's job search program.
I mean, you know a lot of people out there
I do.
from your involvement with APPA,
Just
and
a
you've
couple.
had, on a national level, have had some involvement in different things. I mean, I'm just curious what you think of the candidate pool that might be out there. Any thoughts? I know we're never going to actually be able to replace you, but
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
you have so much knowledge, and you've just brought so much to this organization. It's going to be tough.
Well, I think I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think the best solution for the future of full line power you have in-house. And I think with some realignment of responsibilities, that will work. And if I was to have to put my money someplace, I would put it into an engineer rather than someone like me who will spend another 5 years here.
So, and I don't know, maybe we can talk about this another time. Maybe this isn't appropriate to talk about it. I mean, there's part of me that feels like, as I said at our special meeting, I think it's very important that we do a broad search.
I
And
don't
that's
disagree
not
with that.
to
No.
discount
No,
your skills.
I hear ya.
Understand, but
I understand.
but I feel like we have to do due diligence.
Well,
I am concerned with what's going on in our community because, I mean, I know people that were planning to move to Lowell that have flat out said, there's no way in hell I'm moving to that community right now because they're so appalled by the way our city council has behaved. So I'm a little concerned that that's going to impact our ability to attract someone to this position.
that's entirely possible.
So I sort of feel like
It
we're.
won't be as tough as the city manager position.
Wow, yeah, I can't even imagine what kind of candidates are gonna get for that, but that's not our responsibility. So, so yeah, I feel like we're kind of stuck in a really challenging position. I mean, not just trying to replace, you know what I mean? Not just trying to make sure we have the skill set here, but I just sort of feel like that's added such a layer of, yeah. It's added a whole nother layer for us in trying to look at this issue, and I'm concerned about that.
I understand. And I don't disagree with, at all with, you know, putting these ads out and trying to see what talent is out there and who might be interested. And there may be some deterrence to someone being interested. One of the things that you have to decide is, and I mean, you went through this before when we did the search before I took the position.
Yeah, I wasn't on the board.
I know. How much do you want to spend to do that?
Right.
I mean, you want to spend half a first year's salary to have a search firm that deals with general managers
Right.
as their business do the search? Or are we going to go to the most likely places and do it on our own?
Well, I thought we had kind of decided to do, I mean, I thought that's what we came up with last.
Right, but
yeah.
I'm just saying that, so
Right.
we have to recognize that the pool might not be as big doing
Okay.
it this way, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay,
So,
okay.
just recognize, I mean, when we did it last time, Greg and Perry, I think we got 5 applicants.
Okay.
5 good ones. 1 excellent. 1 mediocre. One thing I think we have going for us that the city doesn't with a manager is that Light and Power has a pretty stable board that has backed the manager, and I think anybody looking can see that, so that makes this a little more desirable position.
It does.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I do think from our perspective, it's a very desirable position when you look at the growth that we've had, when you look at, you know, how we're sort of on the forefront in terms of renewable energy and all the different things that we've done. But I also know the reality is that dynamic of what's going on with the city impacts whoever's in this position. I mean, it impacts us as a board in some ways, and potentially could impact us in a whole lot of ways. So I'm concerned with that. And, I mean, I'm making an assumption that you'll be throwing your hat in the ring, and I'm hoping that you will. But I also feel that we do have that responsibility to
Right,
not
right.
make up our mind, you know, and really be thoughtful about a search.
And I think the search, I think it also gives us more information of where, depending on the experience and everything else of a general manager, where their salary
Right.
can be, should be, or whatever. By getting by interviewing, by having that process of going out and looking to see what's available. And I think it gives us more information to make the right decision. So, on your thing, I read through it. I guess I would, has a 3.6 megawatt internal peaking capacity currently, but I guess we will have an additional 3.6 megawatts
Sure.
in
Yeah, I don't know.
2016.
Absolutely.
And then the other is, in Jim Hall's honor, 13 has got a little too many E's in it,
Okay,
a spelling. He always caught spelling
he did.
things.
Yep, he was my spell check. Okay. Then, if you don't have any other additions or requests with respect to that,
With respect to this, you mean?
yeah, I'll work on getting that to the currents and to the APPA.
Very good.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
I don't know if we finished this,
If you have other
strategic plan,
comments,
'cause well, at least I had other comments.
Yep.
I guess I was gonna say for the second, third, and fourth bullets, they're all just one bullet, the remaining 12,470
Right.
and all that. Are there any like milestones we can put in those? I mean, like, the remaining distribution upgrade plan is,
Right.
Is
well,
that just
out
a-
out of this, we'll get more specific items to put under there.
so this was just the plan, not actually doing the upgrade?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Because, I mean, I guess maybe one thought would be just to have it as the 12,470 upgrade, then item 1, the plan, item
Yes.
2, 3, or the next steps that we
Correct.
decide to do.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
And same with like the vehicle plan,
Mhm.
is the plan now just to have a plan? Is it to fund it to a certain level?
Right. Those are all the details that we'll bring
Okay.
to you as staff once we
Okay,
put more time into figuring out what the plan should be.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the same with
you said
fiber to
you
the
wanted
home. I guess the
do
first thing is just,
something
Yep.
like that.
what is it? Our
Right.
feasibility kind of thing.
Yes.
Gotta go with you about that.
Okay.
What else did I have? I guess for the AMI
Mhm.
piece, I guess that's so imminent, I was gonna add in there like a communication plan or like the public awareness plan.
Yes, okay, we can do that.
But given that it's so imminent, it's gonna be almost upon us before we have a chance to really put it in here.
I think we might have the opportunity to present at a council meeting about that.
Okay,
Don't you think, Greg?
I would think that,
I think one of the council members reached out about the possibility of us
yeah.
talking about the AMI, and so I think that'd be a good stage to get
That'd be
started.
really good.
And
But I think just in general, you just explaining kind of the meters, what we can do with them, but also, what the customers can look forward to in the coming, year.
Yeah,
Like,
because we had
like
talked
what is
about-
this
Yep.
prepaid
Public
metering the
things.
system demand or,
Right.
right.
then, the app thing, when would that happen, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
Once we get the contract, and we haven't gotten it back yet from Cooper, Dick Wendt did have a couple of changes, and so we had to send it back, but once we get that finalized, I'm confident that Eaton Cooper has a number of programs they've already vetted in terms of how you go about providing that customer information. We don't have to
Okay.
reinvent the wheel. So,
that's
once we
nice.
get to
Okay,
that point, and that's why we haven't spent a whole lot of time on it, because they have told us.
So they have some
they have
plans in
those
place to do
materials.
the community
Smart utility systems,
conversations.
and Eaton Cooper
Okay.
Both.
have gone through, in similar communities where they have marketing people and they'll have published flyers, or if they need to come here to a council
Nice.
meeting and
Okay.
explain things with their engineers.
Okay.
Yeah, I did brief them on kind of concerns that
Yeah,
we do have and expectations we have for communication to be on the forefront. But, until we have a contract, and
yeah.
a couple meetings ago, in the, I think you guys approved like the budgetary quote, up to 525. It, as part of that, up to 525, I think the Eaton Cooper was like 508, 509. In that 509, there were 20 weeks worth of
Right.
services.
Right.
And those services cover that.
Oh,
There's
okay.
a whole gamut of things that are in there. So,
Okay.
we can say, okay, we'd like more time on this and stuff like that. So,
Good.
But,
Good resource.
yeah, that 20-week clock hasn't started yet.
Right. Okay.
The other things I had on here was like a rate study or a rate plan. Was there talk of doing that? Or?
Yes, I thought I had that on here, maybe I didn't, so that, we'll put that on if it's not here.
It's
Great.
time of use.
Yep, okay, rate
Okay.
study. Because we just talked about that that's gonna happen in 2016,
Mhm.
so.
Okay.
Yep,
And then I guess I would add for a bullet either under that or something as, or just as one of those, the rate plan. Because I guess after we have the rate study, I think we'd kind of want to come up with what's our plan for rates. Are we gonna,
implementation.
yeah, are we gonna, because I know one thing I liked when I did attend that conference this summer was, I forget her name, but the lady that was presenting
Dawn.
about the,
Her name is Dawn.
yeah, Dawn. Mentioning that a lot of communities will just not bother to look at their rates and then 5 years later realize, oh crap, we've got to raise rates 10%.
Right.
Or some large number.
Yes,
And she said, really, you should be planning to raise rates X% every year as a default.
right.
And then, once in a while, you can say, you know what, we need to raise it a little more this year or a little less this year.
Mhm.
But don't just let it go flat and then have it jump every once in a while, because that just,
PR.
yeah, well, just, yeah, it's consternation for them, but also it's just kind of planning. You know, it's much easier for you to project a budget if we have, I think you've got in here.
We have a place for this.
1.5% or whatever,
Right.
you've got a plan in there already, but if we only implement that once every 5 years, it kind of messes up your projections.
Right.
Yeah, so that was that. The other I had was, aren't there the wind, you know, or other renewables,
Right, okay.
whether it is wind or something else, I mean, just
Right.
looking at those opportunities and do we need them in our portfolio and.
Very good.
And then the last I had was that concept of like a service versus product provider model, like how do we, you know, we talked about, are we better off maybe charging just like the, rather than charging for electricity, we just charge for the service kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought you had a better term for it, but something about like I forget the word, but
It escapes me at the moment as well. I'll go back and look at my
But
notes.
yeah, instead of like a per kilowatt hour, focus more on the ready to serve type of a model or something. I forget the,
Mhm. Cost of
but-
service or?
yeah. Because I remember you made some comments before about how it's weird that the product we sell, we encourage you to use less of.
Right.
But I don't think we sell electricity. We sell access to, or we provide a service of
Yeah.
Right.
electrical power. And it doesn't matter how much we provide as long as we provide enough. So,
Right.
and so maybe we should look at kind of changing how we
think about it.
how we structure it, so.
Okay, good. All good.
And then the last one I had is, what's the feasibility number? On this column in here next to priority?
Well, if we put it as a priority A or priority B or a completion date, what's the possibility of that really happening?
So is that like a percent, like,
It was just a scale of 1 to
Rate,
10.
1 to 10.
okay.
And that gave us.
So that's just kind of how feasible it is that would happen with that timeline?
Yes, and so
Okay.
that we could come back and make an adjustment. So if you had an A that you thought you could get done this year and it was a 10, and something else came up, that would maybe drop back to a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Still be an A, it's something that we're working on that we want to get done. We might have to change the time frame on it, but
Mhm.
the priority has changed, or the feasibility of it getting done in that original time frame.
Okay. I guess that's what reminds me, one other thing is, do we have a definition of what the priorities are, high, moderate, lower, like what is? Oh, okay, I guess one recommendation I had, I was expecting we were gonna have more comments on this, so sorry if I'm like,
No, that's right.
running over everything, but I was kind of suggesting maybe we just get rid of the D, just have a B, C.
Okay,
Then you don't have to worry about, is it a moderate or lower, or, it's either high, middle, low.
Okay.
Seems like to simplify it for us, but then just kind of define what is high, moderate, low, what does that mean? High means we're actively working it right now, or we need to be, but if it's a C, does that mean we don't work it right now, or does that mean it's spare time? Like, when fiber to the home is C, what does that mean? Does that mean you just don't do anything with it until later, or does it mean that, when you've got some extra time, you'll look at it, or I guess, that's,
Yes.
I guess I
understand.
looked at those completely different, because I was thinking high, moderate, low, or light. I mean, granted, a lot of the things on here aren't like necessity for our system, but I was thinking like those higher things would be really, we have to do these types of things to keep our system in good order. So I guess I looked at it a little bit differently. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and I
As
think
opposed
that's
to,
where the intention,
as opposed to priority
okay.
of, time-wise, this has to get done, but priority as in this is necessary to keep our system in good shape. So maybe I looked at it a little bit different
Well, I
from our
kinda-
previous conversations.
I kind of looked at it as priority in terms of how it relates to our
Timing.
strategies.
Okay.
Not timing. And that,
Okay.
I have actually even, for one point, I kind of toyed with, do we really need to separate out the priority and the
Right. And
timely,
timing.
kind of say, is this really important but not necessary to do right now, kind of thing. Like the,
Yeah.
okay, well,
like the, I don't know, like the 12470, or maybe that's not a good example, but let's just say like AMI, for example, it's a very high priority, but not right now. Maybe later if that was, but, right, it's not a good example because we're doing it now, but.
Yeah,
right.
right.
Whereas
Well,
other things
Yeah,
could be a
I
low
just
priority,
looked
like
at
the
it
mural
different.
might be a lower priority, but hey, guess what? Somebody's ready to do it now, let's do it now.
Right, there's an opportunity, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay,
So,
well, we'll
yeah,
look
I
at
looked
how
at that
we,
differently.
label those for the different columns, for the different headings, and
But I
see if
guess,
we can make some more
okay.
sense of a way to
Keep
organize them.
adjusting.
Yeah, keep
Yep.
adjusting, that's right.
But I guess as a board, just try to get an idea of what high means to us, so that,
Right,
I mean, I guess we're generally in agreement of what these are anyway, so that's okay, but
okay,
I just don't want to get into a situation where we're like, oh, wait, I thought that was high priority, why aren't you doing this now?
right,
That's not what I meant, it's that kind of thing.
okay, good.
Right, and thanks again for doing this, because
No.
this is a nice list, especially on the back when you see all the stuff that,
It's been accomplished already.
Mhm.
Good.
oh, sorry, so I turned my page over.
Oh, sure. Sure.
I totally forgot about that, but.
Don't complain when it gets down
I
to
know.
council comments with me.
Yeah, I know. I see you're writing a bunch of notes, I hope that's not all the stuff you have to talk about.
Well, I've crossed off a bunch of them because we already talked. But
Okay.
yeah, there was a bunch.
The biodigester, I thought, that's not, part of it's completed, but shouldn't we have on there the intent to purchase it as one of our long-term,
Okay,
Good
Goals.
point.
Yep.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, because it does affect a lot of our planning, so
yeah,
that would be
especially now that
good
we
to
see
have
the
on the
budget
radar.
and how
I
much that
love the
kind
way
of
you think,
dominates.
Andrew.
very good.
And then the last I had was,
There's more, no,
there's the-
I think that's the seventh time it did.
I know, there's always something else. I caught myself actually doing that earlier, and I wasn't supposed to say it again, I did, so. So you got me pretty good there. What's the economic development partner item?
Well, economic development, we've talked about, again, it's something that could fall into the community collaboration projects, but as part of APPA's overall plan with helping utilities be an integral part of the community, they do some conferences and they have some special sessions at even the national conference where they show the individual utility how they can be an economic partner in the community in terms of economic development. And so we've talked about it in the past. There's been a couple of projects that I've tried to promote that would be great economic development tools in the community that haven't caught on, but that doesn't mean that they're not still out there and potentially available. So we keep talking about those. We could have an economic development rate, which would encourage new business to come. They'd have a rate break for 3 years or 5 years or something like that to be able to get established. There's all kinds of things that we can do as a utility to help bring economic development. Building the pipeline
Okay.
for Lighthouse was economic development because it's going to allow them to grow. They're not constrained by the amount of waste they have anymore because we're using it all. So there's things that we can do as a utility to promote economic development, and that's why it's on there.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I noticed it was in both spots, and that's why I
Yeah,
forgot it the
we've
first
done
time,
some
because
things.
I made my note on the backside, not on the front. But now I'm done.
Okay.
Make sure, you don't have one more.
If you want, I could think of something.
Okay, we've talked about the AMI, and gave you an update that we're still waiting on the document to come back from Cooper. So the costs are still falling in line, if not a little less than what Steve was projecting, so
Came out a little less, actually.
we're in good shape there.